Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Purpose Chasers podcast. As you know, my name is Mark Crandall, and I have a really special new friend with me. So I was introduced to the man who is going to be interviewed today by a good friend and a recent podcast participant. Peter Marston introduced me to Diego Corzo. 2 weeks ago we got breakfast, Diego?
About 2 weeks ago, yeah.
And it came off of a call that kind of a mastermind call that I was doing with Pete, about the direction that I was heading with my business. And I just, I'm really longing to and asking the universe to present more people in my life that are kind of taking it to the, not even kind of taking it to the next level, but like really taking it to the next level. And Pete goes, I don't know why I haven't thought of this earlier. You need to meet Diego. He lives in Austin. He's a hustler. You need to meet him. He is all out. And so I got breakfast with Diego 2 weeks ago and was just blown away. It's literally like, to me, it was like we're brothers from obviously completely different mothers. But I just feel connected to him. So I want to introduce Diego Corzo, and he has one of the most powerful stories that I've heard about in regards to entrepreneurship and in regards to, kind of the premise of the Purpose Chasers podcast is to, kick the door in on mediocrity and live an extraordinary life. Diego, do you want to give, I would say a brief intro about who you are? But I don't think it's going to be brief because your story is just absolutely powerful. You want to let my listeners know who you are and a semi-brief intro as to what you're up to?
Yeah, for sure, Mark. Well, thank you very much for having me here. And as Mark said, my name is Diego. I'm 27 years old and I live in Austin. I am a realtor full-time and I'm also a real estate investor. But I came to the United States when I was 9 years old. So I came here as a kid from Lima, Peru. And now, fast forward about 18 years later, I am now what Congress called a dreamer. And I am a DACA recipient. So with everything that's going on with the news, I am one of those kids that came to the United States with their parents. We came here on a tourist visa. And unfortunately, we stayed, and it wasn't my choice. But I didn't realize what it meant to be undocumented until I turned 16 years old. And since then, that's when I've had a lot of obstacles in my life that have stopped me from getting to where I want to be faster. But I am still on a path to entrepreneurship, to achieve that American dream, and essentially to achieve financial freedom.
It's just, like when you say that, it just blows me away. Cause I think about, so when you say that, what comes up for me is thinking about all of the weeks when I would go into my 9-to-5 job and I would think about like this American dream, right? And like that we get washed with in school from a young age of like, you get a job, you work, it's kind of, rich dad, poor dad-esque, right? You get the house, exactly. You have the family, you have the white picket fence, you pay your bills, and all will be well. And then, I meet people like you when I moved to Austin almost 2 years ago that are entrepreneurs, and like entrepreneurship was just so foreign to me. But outside of entrepreneurship, right, was just this like the real American dream or the real dream in general, which is to live an abundant, fulfilling life and serve others.
Exactly.
Right? How has your story and the struggles that you've gone through, I guess it has to have moved you, because I've done a ton of research on you since I got to know you. And I see that you're like, it's, so when I think about it, I think about me, right? So I have, I shared it with you, I was a drug addict for a while. I was addicted. And as a result of that, have 6 felonies on my record. And so when I think about my little story of like being a felon and going through the interview process to get hired by the state of New Hampshire where I was living was like this huge thing that no one had ever done, or maybe somebody had done it, but no one had ever talked about it. And I said, yeah, well, I'm going to get that job. Right. Mm-hmm. And I ended up getting hired. And I know that's a small example, but can you relate that example to what you've gone through?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. And so, as I was saying earlier, like I was 16 years old, and that's when all my friends were getting their driver's license, right? And it was my turn. I turned 15 or 16, and I was like, all right, mom, I'm going to go get it. And then they told me that at the DMV, they told me that I couldn't get my driver's license because I wasn't an American and I didn't have my documents. So that was the first stopping point that I knew that I was going to not be faced with the same experience in my teenage years and heading into adult life as my other friends. I graduated third in high school. So I still did everything that I still did the after school activities. I studied hard. I got the good grades. And when it was my turn to go to college, I was the first immigrant in my family to go to college here in the United States. So I got into university. I got into Florida State, but I couldn't qualify for any student loans because I didn't have my papers. And I won a lot of scholarships too because I did graduate third, but they were taken back because I didn't have my documents either. They said, congratulations, you won, but we're missing either your green card or to show that you're American. And I was like, I don't have that. So I lost thousands of dollars, even though academically and like on paper, I was like the perfect student to get that scholarship. But I lacked that document. And it was really hard to be like, okay, like how am I going to be able to pay for this? Like that's my next step in life for me at that point to achieve that American dream, right? So I managed to still get a couple of scholarships. My parents did pay for me. So at this point, I'm trying to go to school, but I cannot drive, right? So that's one obstacle. I'm 19 years old. And then since I studied information technology, I began to volunteer so that I can do websites for nonprofits. So they saw my work as a freshman in college and they were like, Diego, you've done more work as a freshman in 6 months than some seniors do in a year. We want to hire you. I go through the hiring process. I was all excited. And then they said, Diego, we need a work authorization because your social says that you cannot work without work authorization. So I submit that. I submit all my documents and I asked my parents and they said, you don't have that. So then at that age of 19, I also found out that I couldn't work. So I cannot drive and I cannot work. And I'm like, how am I going to be able to pay for college or live a normal life? And it was then that I realized I've been always the person that says, okay, how can I, if that's my goal, how can I achieve it? Right. So I always become more resourceful. And one of the things with my situation that I had is always being the resourceful person and having the mindset of asking myself the right questions, right? It's like, why is this happening for me rather than why this is happening to me? And I come from more an abundance mentality than a victim mentality. Because with my situation, right, I don't have any papers, I cannot work, I cannot drive. It's very easy to be like, I'm just gonna give up and have a mediocre life, have a below average life. And I'm the kind of guy that I cannot have that. My parents told me that I can be anything I want to be in the United States when I was a child, and I believed it. And I always knew that it was going to take a little bit of harder obstacles, harder challenges, but I've always been the person to overcome with enough work ethic, with enough resilience in that sense. And then I found out that I could actually work as a contractor by creating my own LLC. So that's what I did. I created a company and then I went to small businesses and nonprofits, and they will pay my company and I will be the contractor. So that's how I was able to pay for college and pay for my expenses. And it was a period of time in with me too, that I had to decide, okay, like I can either make excuses or I can make the life of my dreams, right? Because there were times where in Florida, I had appointments with small businesses so that I could visit them and so that I can build their website. And they were 3-5 miles away. And my only mode of transportation was my bike. And in Florida, it's really hot. So there were times where I would put on my gym's clothes, put a suit in my backpack, drive my bike to the small business, parked behind the business, dry off with a towel, put on my suit and walk through the front door, tell them my services, get hired for the website, and then go to the back of the building, change, and drive back home and do the website, right? So it was like, it's those times that you're like, there are people that say, it sounds like too much work, I don't want to do this. And for me, it's like, if it's going to help me to get to my dreams, let's go, let's do it.
So you made a statement that, you know, obviously, you know, that, you know, I'm in recovery, and I've been in recovery for, you know, over 10 years now. And you made a statement that like just really rang true to me. And I know it'll ring true to a lot of other listeners. And you asked the question, why is this happening for me versus to me? Right. And I think, man, it just really hit me hard. It's like, and I, you know, from the abundance practice, which we talked about extensively on Sunday when you came over to mastermind with me, right? Is like, what opportunity is presented within this situation versus the mindset that I lived for a long, long time is, why is this happening to me? Why is the world so hard? You know what I mean? And man, it just blows me away. And so I want to ask you, from the shift in that mindset, what opportunities, or like one opportunity, do you think, or however many you have shifted? Like, what opportunities do you feel you would have missed out in if you had viewed it, the situation that was presented as like, man, the United States is so hard, maybe I should just go back to Peru, or this isn't going to work for me, or, you know, poor me. What do you think the shift would have been?
The shift, I wouldn't be happy with the life that I would have had. I mean, right now I live a pretty amazing life, thinking more like abundantly, and with the connections that I've been able to build with my mentors, the mastermind groups that I belong to. And at the end of the day is that mindset that right now I would probably be, I don't know, I just wouldn't be happy. I know that for sure. I know that I wouldn't be in Austin, and I know that I wouldn't be impacting the amount of lives that I would like to impact. That's for sure too. Because I believe that we're here in the United States, but in the world with a purpose, with a life that we really want to fulfill. And for me, I have the mindset too that with my situation, with me being DACA and a dreamer, and I couldn't work or legally drive, where I couldn't legally work or drive until the age of 22, 23, I always had the mindset of, I have to be happy with the life that I have as I build the life of my dreams. And that's something that I heard from Hal Elrod in a podcast a long time ago. And I was like, wow, that quote, that's how I've been living my life, right? And for me, I also got an opportunity to go to my first personal development event when I was 21 years old. And for me, that was a huge shift because it was then that I got introduced to the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I also found a mentor, and he said, Diego, you should build a bigger life, not a bigger lifestyle. And once I heard that quote, his name is Adam Carroll, plus reading the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, my mindset shifted in a huge way, because then I knew that there is like 95% of the population lives and works in one way, and the 5% live and work and have a mindset of a different way. And I wanted to get more towards that 5%.
Yeah. And you just brought up like the absolute reason why I started this podcast, right? I started this podcast to try to touch the lives of those 95%, right? Because I come from, my story is, in the eyes of society, maybe semi-dramatic. Your story to me is like, whoa, you know what I mean? And so if one of the 95%, and I know that some of them are going to listen to this, those 95% that are just kind of living, not truly living, but just living, and they know that they're just living and they want more, what would you say to them?
I would say that they definitely need to be involved in scheduled personal development and to raise their standards, right? If your standards is going to work and going to happy hour after 5 p.m. every single day of the week and looking for Sunday fun day, then that's going to be your standard, and you're going to be surrounding yourself with those kinds of people. And what's going to happen is they're going to be doing this every single week, but you don't have a higher purpose. So what I would say is schedule personal development, read some books, and go to events and meet people that have a higher standard.
Let me ask you this, because I know, obviously, like a lot of the work that I do is in the recovery field. I'm an interventionist, and I do, counseling for people that are in recovery. And so there's this movement in the recovery field to rise up against the stigma, right? The stigma of addiction. And I know that some people may think that like our stories are very, they just don't align, but I can see the correlation between our stories a lot, right? And so when you enter recovery, you have this stigma of being an addict, or, in my situation, I had the stigma of being an addict and having a past criminal life, right? And I know that my direction is very similar to yours, that I'm not going to let my circumstances determine where I sit. Right. And one of my favorite talks ever is it's not a lack of resources. It's a lack of resourcefulness. Right. So when I change my mind, so if I go into the world and I view, well, I'm in recovery, no one's ever going to hire me because I used to be an addict, and now I have felonies because I used to be an addict. When I sit in that place, the opportunities that you're talking about don't present themselves. I don't see the next book that I'm supposed to read. I don't get, and I want to share an experience about, how, like my memoir is right back here on the wall. Like I got to meet Hal for the second time at the Capitalism Conference, and he, signed one of his Miracle Morning books. And I was like, you don't have to sign it, man. I have the audiobook. I have 2 hardcovers. I have one that I wore down because I went through it so much. And he's like, no, here. And so I was like, and it was like my bucket list to swap a book with him. Now I started sweating, right? But I come from the mindset of like, what do I have to lose? And so I went, I grabbed the book and I autographed it in front of him. And I said, I don't know if you're going to read it, Hal, but here's my story. And I wanted to give this to you. I guess
that's awesome.
When those opportunities are presented for you, do you experience any fear? Because there has to be stigma, especially with what's going on in the world. There has to be stigma for you that you walk through. Like, what are those thoughts that come up, and how do you walk through them when you see an opportunity?
Yeah, so I agree with you 100%. And there are those days when I'm like, crap. Like with everything that's going on with DACA right now, right? Like really DACA right now in May of 2018, there's been things that are saying, yes, things are going well. And then yesterday, 6 states just sued the Trump administration to cancel DACA. So it's like, there's so much stuff going on that my life is so like uncertain right now, with uncertainty in that sense. And I'm like, okay, who am I? I'm not even American to achieve that American dream, right? So then that's like the first thought, like, who am I to go out there and try to fulfill the American dream when I'm not even American? And then I'm like, crap, who I am, why shouldn't I be the one that achieves the American dream given the opportunities that I am here in America? Just because I'm an American doesn't mean I cannot achieve the American dream. So that's like my second thought. So first is like the limited belief. And then I'm like, crap, screw that. I'm going to go with the second one, the one that serves me most. But it doesn't mean that I don't have the first one first. And I have the first one all the time. But then here's the thing, right? I also like, my life changed when I met the mastermind group called Go Abundance. And that's a mastermind group for millionaire entrepreneurs. I'm not a millionaire yet, but I reached out to them from Twitter. Like on Twitter, I reached out to one of the guys.
Yeah,
and I was 23 years old.
Diego.
Yeah.
Because you explained your Go Abundance experience to me. You did not meet Go Abundance. You kicked the door in on Go Abundance and said, "My name is Diego and I'm here to stay."
Yeah, basically. And they gave me a great opportunity. Yeah. So basically I heard this podcast. Keep in mind that I graduated college and I was a software developer. I worked as a software developer for GM here in Austin. Now, here's the thing. By the time that I graduated college, the Obama administration had passed the DACA program. So I was allowed to work and drive by that time, legally. So this really helped me in achieving the American dream, because then I was going to climb the corporate ladder and continue working. And for my family, that was a huge accomplishment, right? Coming from zero, when my parents moved to the United States, we moved, the four of us, my parents and my brother, we moved into a 1-bedroom, like we literally moved into a house with other family, and we lived in 1 bedroom and share a bunk bed for a few months. So going from there to now doing this, I've been always a kind of person that wants to do something after work. Like I just couldn't go and work 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 and then go home and do nothing. So I decided to get started in real estate, and I became a realtor. Now, here's the best part with that is that one day I was listening to podcasts while I was at work. So one of the things that you guys can do if you're at work in the 9 to 5, you can still listen to personal development books and listening to podcasts that will help you so that when you go out of work, you can continue to accomplish your goals.
Definitely so listen to Purpose Chasers podcast while you're at work.
Exactly. So I heard a podcast about real estate and realtors, and in it there was a guy named Pat Hyben that was interviewed. He gave a lot of value, and I was like, why don't I just follow him on Twitter and thank him for it? So I followed him on Twitter. I sent him a tweet. Thank you so much for the value that you gave in this interview. I loved it. I'm a brand new agent. And he replied back and said, Diego, I also have a podcast. You should check it out. Thank you very much for your support. And after every interview that he did, I would send him a tweet to thank him. And then one day I messaged him and I was like, hey, Pat, this is me. I'm 23 years old. This is a little bit of my story. I heard about Go Abundance. What is it? And then he says, Go Abundance is a tribe for millionaires that want to achieve an epic life. And they based it in becoming a millionaire in all areas of life. So not just financial, but health, accountability, contribution, and relationships. So, and of course, like goals and of course with goals and all of that stuff. Now, the best part was that he mentioned you have to be a millionaire to get in. And I was like, okay, I'm not a millionaire, but I want in anyway. If possible. So then I went to the website I submitted a form and I scheduled a call with one of the guys, and they tell me, hey, I need to check with the elders to see if you could come to our next event, but we love what you're doing and we'll be in touch. Well, thankfully 2 weeks later, and I'm very grateful for them giving me this opportunity, I got invited to go to a mansion, to a house in Steamboat, Colorado, And that was my first GoBundance event. So I found myself at the age of 23 in a room of 15 millionaires, and it was a life-changing experience, because it was then that I really I understood the power of surrounding yourself with people that have a higher standard, because their conversations are different, right? I was 23 years old in my corporate job, and their conversation was like, Diego, what are you going to do this year to get passive income, to build passive income? Because all this life, a lot of people don't even know that there's two ways of making money. You can trade your time for money, or you can make your money work for you. So in corporate America, I'm always trading my time for money. So then they gave me that other, they showed me the abundant mindset, and to know that I can really achieve what I want to achieve. And they just asked me the right questions. So then what happens was, after that 5-day event, they asked me and they said, Diego, GoBundance is for millionaires, but we want you to become our apprentice. Will you be down for that? We will mentor you to become a millionaire. And back then, like, my net worth was $30,000. And I was like, I'm in, let's go. Whatever you tell me to do, I'll do it. Right. And then I showed up to events. If they said, go to Tony Robbins, I went to Tony Robbins. If they said, Diego, take a speaking class, I took a speaking class. And then I showed them, I showed up, right? I showed up as many times as I could. And then when I say my life changed, I mean, I was on a private plane 2 weeks later with one of the guys, and it was awesome. It was amazing. And now fast forward 3 years later, they've created the mastermind group called March to a Million that's helping other entrepreneurs like me be on our path to becoming a millionaire. And what's awesome is, like, I was the first one in there, and it's been an amazing experience since then.
It just, yeah, I mean, I can relate so much to that little snippet of a story, because I'm in the, I've been grinding for a year on everything that I've done. And, like, with the abundance mindset, my business, my life has grown dramatically. And like I talked to you about, and I'm sure a lot of listeners are going to be able to relate to this, and you will as well. I'm in this place where it's like, yes, I had mentorship early on. Yes, I had accountability early on. I'm at the place, and we talked about it Sunday, where it's like, I got a lot of chips on the table, and I've been working hard, and now I've passed my mentorship, and now I've passed my accountability. Not from an arrogant standpoint, but I'm just playing such a big game that it's time to level up.
Exactly.
And I know based off your story and based off my experience, that that's going to take risk, and it scares me. Right?
Oh, for sure.
Go ahead.
For sure. But for sure. And what's awesome is, like, when I'm saying, like, the people in GoBundance, right? Like, one of the elders, one of the creators, David Osborne, he is worth $100 million, but he wants to be worth $500 million, right? So I was just at an event, and he was sharing, like, how he's going to do it and what he really wants to do. Like, he wants to be worth 500 million and give away 100 million in that sense. And it's awesome because he was talking about, like, who's going to be his next mentor, who's going to be the next tribe that will lift him up. And in a sense, he also will lift GoBundance up, which is awesome, right? But if he didn't, but even at that level, like, I want to grow and I want to have my mentors. And even at that level, he's still looking to grow and have other mentors. And he's already worth $100 million, right? So I'm the believer of always having that constant and never-ending improvement mindset. And as Jim Rohn said, right, he said, he said, formal education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune. So it's that formal education, and not just financially, but like understanding yourself with your relationships, with contribution and all of that stuff. And thanks to GoBundance, I've now got the opportunity, like, they've shown me the way, and I've been able to, I'm 27 years old, and and right now at this point, I was able to leave corporate America, and I own 8 rental properties. And I'm not an American. I'm a DACA recipient. I don't have a green card or anything, but I've been able to still build the life of my dreams just because I've been surrounding myself with those guys. And the best part is that I learn from their experience. So if it may have taken me 5, 10, maybe 15 years to get where I am today, but I was able to do it in less because I learned from them. I learned from their mistakes.
So Diego, if you can leave my listeners with one statement, what would it be?
Leave your listeners with one statement. What would it be?
Yeah, you could drop one knowledge nugget, one piece of spiritual influence, one thing. You could say one thing. What would it be?
Yeah, I would say, and this will be a quote from Hal Elrod, actually, that I heard, and it helped me a lot. It said, focus on your vision, not your current circumstances. That will be the quote that I get, because circumstances, everybody has ups and downs, right? But if you focus on your vision and you have a target of where you want to be, continue pushing for it, because you need to have the vision. And also, I would say, have a why. If you don't have a why, when things get hard enough, you will quit. But when you have a why that pulls you, whether it is your family, whether it is just yourself, whether it is a goal that you want to have, or maybe your why is to buy the house of your dreams. If you have a why that pulls you, when the hard time comes, you will succeed. So
Diego, where can people find you? Where, I mean, I know where you're at, but I want you to drop your link so people can follow you and watch your path, because we talked on Sunday and I know you're getting ready to unveil a lot of helpful information, and I just want my listeners to be able to check you out.
Yeah, for sure. So if they want to learn more about me, they can add me on Facebook, Diego Corzo. They can also send me an email to info@diegocorzo.com. And if they want to learn more about my experience about my experience in real estate and how to invest, not just as a millennial, but in any way possible, check out the website househackingclub.com. That is househackingclub.com.
Awesome, Diego. I'm so grateful for you coming on the podcast and for Pete introducing us, and just to have you in my life, as I don't know where this relationship's going to go, but I know it's going to be great. So thanks for coming on, and I look forward to having you on once you drop this new material that you're working on, and we're making it super secret to try to hook people into getting it. So thanks for coming on, brother.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mark. Have a good day.